Hello, hello, guys. Can you hear me okay? Hit me in the chat. Make sure you guys can hear me. Glad you guys are joining in. It's just going to be me for a second. I think Ryan's going to join us here shortly, but I wanted to get on early and talk with you guys. So hope you guys are having a good night. I got some questions that came in on email prior to this, so I might peruse that for a second. We had 300 registrants so far for this tonight, so excited that you guys are here and ready to learn. All right, guys, making sure you guys get to interact with me. Can you guys let me know where you're from in the chat? Where you're from, what market you're investing in. Go ahead and type that in the chat, guys. Lafayette, Louisiana, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Philly, Houston, Miami Beach, Michigan, and Florida. That's great, Mike. 2 markets there. Orange County, Richmond, Dallas, Palm Springs, Austin, LA, Asheville, North Carolina. What a beautiful place. Brian, I'm jealous that you get to live there. I got to visit last year and really enjoyed it. Alabama, New Jersey, Maryland, Bay Area, Des Moines, Cleveland, Nashville, Boise, Idaho. All right. Oakland, Bay Area. That's great, guys. Why don't I do this? Let me see if I can pull up some of those questions I got shot today to kick some things off. And let's see here. Ryan's asking me for the link, so I'm going to send him that real quick. Appreciate you guys being on. I hope you guys have your notebooks out because you're going to learn some awesome stuff tonight that's going to help you in your business. So you're going to want to take notes. So if you don't have a notebook, go and get one real quick and a pen so you can take some notes. I am getting Ryan the link to this webinar. Let's see. Let's see. All right, all right. Hey, Chris. Hello. All right. So while Ryan's joining us, let's see. Got an emailed question. All right, so let's see. Okay, somebody said, this was Chandler Call. He emailed me earlier today. And he said, when driving for dollars and sending postcards with property pictures, when should I skip trace versus when should I send postcards? Or should I send postcards and then call them? And so I think what's really important is for you to pick a strategy and stick with it. If you know that you're really uncomfortable cold calling, or maybe you don't have a lot of time, the fastest thing to do is just add properties and mail them. So if you know you're short on time, and you know you're not going to do the cold calling, I would highly recommend adding 200 distressed properties, mailing all of them at least 3 times each. If you're short on time, that's the best way to go. If you have time, I think making the cold calls is really effective, but just kind of check with yourself and see if you're going to be able to consistently do that, because the most important thing is consistency in the marketing method that you choose. Hey, Tim Harvey, I saw your message. Hi there. Yeah, guys, keep the questions coming. We're going to get Ryan Dossey in here, and then he's gonna teach you something for a few minutes, and then we're going to jump to your question.
What's up, bud?
How you doing, Ryan?
Hang on, I can't hear you. Can you talk?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Cool. Yep, got you.
Awesome. Glad you could join us. I know you're in St. Louis.
Yeah, man. Hanging out here off Watson.
I know Watson Road. Old stomping grounds. Casey Tavalt says, my boy Dossey is in the house.
Uh,
That's awesome.
yeah.
Cool. I just was prepping everybody and saying hello, and I told them that you might have a prepared lesson actually at the beginning of this, and then we go to Q&A. So if you have that, we can do that.
Yeah. So I've got something I want to just kind of chat about
Okay.
and kind of give you guys an example and walk you through.
Cool.
So for those of you guys who kind of don't know me or my involvement in the real estate community, in the past couple months, I've been on hundreds of phone calls with investors all around the country. Guys that are doing a couple million a year in assignments down to guys that are trying to get their first deal. And one of the biggest recurring themes that I see is they're not using or running a scorecard. So I'm going to show you guys kind of like a super simple one. And this is something that I'm happy to share the template with.
Ooh.
But
So
give you guys.
I was just going to say, while you're bringing that up, for those that don't know who you are, I want to kind of share your background a little bit. I'm trying to pull up your website here just so I get the numbers right.
I can help you. I know what they are.
I know it. I want to do it though, because
cool.
It's fun to introduce you. So I know Ryan because he primarily operates in Indianapolis, even though he just moved away to San Diego, which was really sad. But I thought this was really cool on your website. You have this timeline kind of what you accomplished, and I think that's really, really cool to look at. So you got your first deal in 2015. And then in 2016, you did 6 wholesale deals, and you decided to go full time. And then in 2017, you did 74 deals. So I think that's really cool to think about, somebody who's just done a few deals, what you can do the following year, and what you did, kind of proves that. And then you acquired 73 rental properties the next year, right? And so now we're in 2019. So
so currently I'm at 143 units in Indianapolis, and we've bought all of those within the past year and a half, 2 years now.
Okay, dude, incredible growth. So, I mean, I always feel like I learn something from you every time we talk. So it's a really awesome that we get to do this for me personally. So with that, I'm going to hand it back to you and for you to kind of now share what you were talking about.
Cool.
I'll stop sharing my screen.
I think it's going to let me kick you out. So, okay. So this is a super simple example of what I'm talking about. So how many leads did you have come in this week? How many appointments did you get? How many leads did you get that you didn't get to an appointment, to a follow-up? How many were taken off the lists? How many of your appointments actually showed up? How many of your follow-ups did you get to an appointment? Of your appointments, how many offers did you make? If you're wholesaling, how many purchase contracts, how many sale contracts, how much marketing you did, right? So handwritten, printed, texts, emails, how many total contacts you made, and then where your leads are coming from, direct mail.
Oh man, for me, Ryan, your video froze. I'm not sure if it's working. The screen share is still working, but I don't hear you.
Better?
Yeah, I got you now. You're back.
I'll tell you what, give me 2 seconds. Let me switch something with my Wi-Fi.
Okay.
Cool. Give me 1 second, guys.
Appreciate you guys hanging out. He's going to be right back.
All right. How's this? Better?
Yeah, you're good.
Cool. We've been hot spotting it, and literally charter just left 5 minutes ago. So good to go. We're on
brand new internet.
Real internet now.
That's awesome.
Okay. So we can hop back into this. So you're tracking your marketing, you're tracking where your leads are coming from, you're tracking what your costs are, and you're looking at your percentages, right? How many of your leads are getting to appointments? How many of those are you getting under contract? What are your profits? What are your losses? And you can get way, way more detailed than this. What is your cost per phone call? What is your cost per appointment, right? So a lot of you guys right now don't have a team yet. It's just you. Totally fine. That's where we all started, right? But as you kind of get going, having that data to train your team is extremely powerful. Mm-hmm. You tell people on your team, hey, I want you to work a little harder. It's a little different than being like, hey, it cost us $237 to get you on that appointment today. Did you value it like you spent $250 to be there? Mm-hmm. Right?
That's awesome.
Right. I don't know about you, but I'm like, well, crap. No, I didn't. I got a little lazy, right? Or maybe I was late. So the reason I bring this up, and this isn't sexy. This isn't like some new ninja way to get deals that nobody knows about. But the vast majority of investors don't know their numbers. The problem with that is you don't know where and how to improve. So I'm pretty sure every single person on this call, myself included, would all say we would like to do more deals and make more money, right? Mm-hmm. If not, you can just leave now, right? But a lot of us don't know how. We don't know what we need to improve on. And most investors that I've talked to make the mistake of thinking that it's a lead flow problem, when a lot of the times it's a conversion problem. You may have plenty of leads, you may just not be closing them. Or it may be, hey, you're getting tons of leads, but you're not going on many appointments because you're prejudging things, right? Mm-hmm. If you don't have the data, you can't tell. For those of you guys who don't know me, I run a couple 7-figure companies, and scorecards have been the single biggest lifesaver. I'm sure David can attest to this as well. When you're moving large quantities of capital in and out of accounts, if you don't keep a very close eye on things, something drifts by a couple percent and you can be in trouble. Or you can be making a lot more money. So just kind of a good thing, I think, to get in the habit of doing. Our rule with our team is it didn't happen if it didn't happen in the scorecard. So if they're like, hey, got a deal, it's not in the scorecard, so you must not have gotten it, right? Oh, this one closed. I don't see that in the scorecard, right? And it seems kind of like picky, but realistically, if you don't do that, you're not going to know your numbers. You're not going to be able to scale effectively. Biggest question I get asked when I share my story is, how'd you go from 6 to 74? I got consistent in my marketing and I started to run a scorecard. Pretty straightforward.
How did you make your scorecard? How did you even come up with that?
I think I just thought, what else would I like to see on here? And then like the one I showed is a simplified version of the ones we use. I mean, we track things like cost per different lead sources, ROI per different lead sources. I like to make like function equations of, if I put in $5, what comes out the backside. Okay. One of the questions I saw was average wholesale fee. So I used to suck at this. My average wholesale fee used to be about $3,000 to $5,000. That was back in 2016 when I did 6 deals. We got up closer to about 10,000 in 17. And right now we're actually right around 20.
And it's the same market.
Yep. Yeah. So
that's crazy.
The biggest thing is like, I don't know how politically correct I need to be on here. Having the balls to build in the margin and go for it. Okay. I mean, it's not that much harder to make more money. And people will try to guilt you on this. So real talk, I've got a deal I sold today. New wholesale deal, shot it out to our list. Okay. We're making like right at 18. And we shot it out to our list, and a guy who's bought one deal from me, who hopefully isn't on this call, hit us up and was like, yeah, I'll pay your asking. And we're like, man, we got an offer for $3,000 above our asking. And he's like, oh, that's not how I do business. I'm not going to get into a bidding war. I've bought from you all the time. I can't believe you want to lose this relationship. I'm like, well, I mean, first off, you've bought one deal from me in 3 years. Like, let's be realistic.
Yeah.
Second off, I don't know any successful investor that doesn't run highest and best. I used to do that, like, well, yeah, they're going to pay my price. That's fine. You'll do that till you wholesale to somebody, turn around and watch them wholesale it to somebody else for 20,000 more.
Dude, if you do, like, I get the whole like being loyal, but if you only work for one buyer, it's like you're their employee. And the point of wholesaling is not to be someone else's employee.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's also, you may price a deal wrong and your buyers may help you out, right? I've had deals that I've shot out before and like, I've got 17 people making sight unseen offers. And I'm like, oh, I priced this wrong. And then they bid it up for us, right? Juan, I saw your question. Have I seen your Facebook messages? Hey man, I've been out of the office for about a week and a half. I'll be back in San Diego next week and I'll make sure I get to those. I'll try to get to them sooner than that, but if you sent me something, I'll make sure I see it. Cool.
I have a question about your sheet.
Yeah, hit me.
Could you fill it out with some sample data of like ratios, like leads to appointments and appointments to close?
So I can give some of those metrics.
Okay.
So I own Call Porter. They take all my calls, is what it is.
Yeah.
What we see off of Call Porter data, and this holds true for most of our clients. So we're closing, our goal is 1 out of every 10 leads that comes into Call Porter.
Okay. So to close a deal, for all you guys listening, you have to go on 10 appointments.
Yeah. Or even just like work 10 follow-ups, right?
Okay.
And this is like, we're dialed in. We're pretty good at this point. So don't beat yourself up if you're not there. About a third of the properties go straight to appointments. A third of them come in as follow-ups, and a third of them aren't interested, want to be removed from our mailing list. Totally fine. So those are kind of just some basic metrics. So real talk, I'm in business. I was talking to one of my Instagram followers about some stuff going on. And he was like, wait, you still have problems in your company? Like, oh, of course, man. Like those never go away. But we noticed in our wholesaling business that we were having a conversion issue. Our lead flow was great, but our closing percentage, I mean, just nosedived. It got to the point that we were closing at like 3%, 3.5%. And it was like, well, what on earth? So we went to one of our acquisitions guys, the main kind of culprit we had here. And we were like, hey man, do you still want to do this? And he was like, no. And I was like, man, the data told me that before you did, right? So actively working on replacing him to be able to then dump more gas on the fire, go back out, hit it all things swinging. But here's the cool thing. Since we had that conversation of, do you still want to be here? He's popped off 5 deals this month.
Okay. Why is that?
Because it's out in the open. There's not this adversarial, he's out looking for other work and doesn't want us to know about it. It's, we know he doesn't want to be here. We're actively working on transitioning him out, and he knows that we've got his best interests at heart. Plus he's making a lot of money. So ultimately it just ended up being, he didn't want to work as hard as we expect our staff to work.
Mm-hmm.
Who manages and is in charge of QC on the scorecard? What's up, Casey? You're like one of my favorite people. If you guys don't know Casey, check him out. Super cool guy. So I'm over making sure it gets filled out, but Noah in my team, kind of my CEO, is in charge of plugging in all the data. For anybody who wants a copy, yeah, totally. You can just hit me up. My email's ryan@callporter.com, or you can hit me up through Facebook or Instagram. See if we got any other questions we're missing so far. Ryan Felton, while we're waiting, 2 properties under contract using direct mail today. Awesome, man. Greg, name of my website, super creative. It's just RyanDossey.com. nothing super inventive. Yeah, we'll make sure to get that over to you guys. Eugene, can I talk about selling land? I could, but I couldn't speak to it intelligently. I don't really do any land. I've done like maybe one or two that just kind of happened to work out, but I'm not your guy for that. Mike, great DealMachine testimonial. Bottom line is app works. Got 2 deals in the first 3 months so far. It takes time to work, 3 to 4 months for results. Yeah. For any of you guys who weren't on our last call, y'all are spoiled. Like, I would have killed for this resource when I was starting out. Back when I was starting out, people were like, buy yellow letters, mail the same people for 6 months and pray. It was pretty much the advice you were given. And, DealMachine metrics are quite a bit better than that. Cool.
Speaking of starting out, did you see this question from Sean McLeod? He says, what advice would you give yourself if you were at your first deal stage?
First deal as in still working for your first deal. So your first deal is going to teach you a ton. Mm-hmm. The biggest thing it's going to teach you is that this is real, like that this works. Mm-hmm. There's so many people that are so skeptical about this because, like, let's be honest, we make a lot of money. At least that should be everyone here's goal. So, for me, the biggest thing I learned from my first deal was, like, I connected all of the dots of how this works, from going under contract to finding a buyer to going under contract with them to putting a bow on it, sending it to a title company. If I was still working towards my first one, I would do exactly what you're doing. I'd be on every webinar you can be on that's not a pitch fest, right? Like, we're not here to sell you anything. I would be around guys like the people that are on this call. I would just surround yourself with kind of that, like, before you get your first deal done, there's this like misconception that this is hard, when it's really not. It's all about metrics and it's all about consistency. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean it's easy, but it's not this, like, a lot of people, when you're first starting out, it almost feels like you're kind of like, throwing coins into a well, wishing, and you're hoping one just happens to pay off. Mm-hmm. But that's not really how it works. The data shows us, David, you can do your stats. My stats show me about 1,500, 2,000 pieces of direct mail. I get an off-market deal. Property at 75% minus repairs, minus what I'm hoping to make. So for me, it's all a numbers game. I know if I put 2K in, it's going to spit something out, mm-hmm. right? And I think your metrics are actually a little bit better than mine.
Well, I think they're better because when people are using DealMachine, they're adding properties that are physically distressed, and I don't think your metrics are based on that type of, like, hunting, right?
No, that's just absentee owners with equity. That's okay. Not. I mean, we do other stuff than that, but
yeah. So yeah, I wanted to reiterate again for those of you starting out, like, Ryan's established business goes on 10 appointments before they close one deal, and anybody that I've ever talked to that's just starting out and quit, 99 out of 100 have not gone on 10 appointments yet. That's the problem. I think is a lot of people don't realize the numbers. And once you see the numbers, then I think you can set a goal, how much effort's required, and you can actually just go out and execute and go do it.
Yeah. I mean, I had somebody reach out to me after one of these ones I did with you guys. And the person was like, I just don't know what to do. I've sent 60 pieces of mail and nothing's working. Mm-hmm. I was like, 60 pieces of mail, get in your car and get back out there, right? Like, you haven't done enough I would be amazed. That would be like David's best testimonial ever if it was 60 pieces to a deal.
It happens. And I'm always, like, hesitant to share it because I feel like it sets the wrong expectations, but it's it definitely randomly happens where people get it on their first day or something crazy like that.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it happens, but let's look at what's average. And then, as you start to get up to that number, that you're doing really well. Mm-hmm. I think this is Nalia, asked how long it took me to get my first deal. So it took me about 45 days. I did 2,500 pieces of mail, ugly yellow letters to absentee owners. Somebody called me. I did everything wrong. It was weird because it was my first wholesale deal. The people that bought it from me, it was their first time buying a property for cash. So they were like, do I just write you a check now? And I was like, I don't think so. I think it has to go through like a title company. But they like handed me $1,000 in cash and earnest money. And then how I found them, actually, I'd put the home on Zillow as a for sale by owner, all these like big no-nos. But my first one, I totally like bull in a china shopped through. We made about 12 grand. So it was a
That's
good
not a bad
kind of
first deal.
foray. No. I was making 20K a year at the time. So I kind of like just sat there and looked at it and was like, what am I doing with my life? Right.
Crazy to make half your salary in one day.
Yeah. And I mean, fortunately, we had that happen when I was pretty young. I was 20. So I say fortunately, it's like a blessing and a curse. Like you're ruined at that point. Like you can't be happy making $15 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also just kind of shows you like what's possible, what else is out there.
For sure. So did you tell that person you were new? Like, I know a lot of people are not sure if they should tell them if they're a wholesaler, I hear that all the time.
When I said I did everything wrong, I did. I was like, oh, I'm going to buy your house. I just did what I was told and went through the motions. The people buying it from us knew that we were flipping the contract to them, but this was kind of before like wholesaling was really like a term,
A well-known
or like a super well-known term. So yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Got time to talk about a kind of a fun deal we just did?
Okay. I want to hear about it.
So this was the worst house I've ever done. Not condition wise. So I've bought probably the worst condition wise one I did. We had one that as you walked across the floor, you could feel the house swaying with each step. It was like super sketchy. This was more of like a health and safety one. So when my team called me after the appointment, I was actually upset that they even went into the house.
Mm-hmm.
So sister had a power of attorney for her heroin addicted sister. Walk in the house and there's literally cots lined up with like people strung out on heroin, belts on arms, needles on the floor, like super, super sad situation. Before my staff left, they counted 13 people in this house.
Wow.
Actively high. So one of them was the owner whose sister had power of attorney. So we were like, man, I don't know that I even want this. Like, how can I show something to buyers? Like the seller literally went through and kicked heroin needles out of the way before the staff went in. Like pretty rough. They didn't even look at like half the house. They were like, yeah, this is not for us. So long story short, we were just super conservative on our numbers. We were like, hey, for somebody, they're going to be comfortable tackling this kind of a project. So we threw it out to our list with sight unseen only. Here's a ton of pictures. Is what it is. You could see in the pictures how bad it was. Sold it, sight unseen, and we're making like 7-8K on it.
So what's the lesson there? That's a crazy story.
The big lesson there, I would say, is not to prejudge a situation. Okay. So if it were me, I probably wouldn't even have gone in that house. Now, I'm not super thrilled that they did. This is totally a house that would have ended up on a driving for dollars list. But the big reason we were able to get this deal, we were way lower than the seller wanted, was the relationship we built. Of the seller's biggest priority was getting her sister out of this house, out of that environment, right? Mm-hmm. Sister owned the house free and clear, wasn't going anywhere. So us purchasing the house, sister had power of attorney, so was legally able to sell it, is going to get the house cleaned out and the sister into treatment. But we also turned it into a deal. So don't assume that something's not going to pan out. I've also had like super nice houses that I couldn't sell. But that literally happened yesterday. So,
wow. That's awesome.
Yeah. And the neat thing is I've never seen the house. I've honestly never even seen I saw pictures. That's it.
Yeah.
I didn't work the lead. I didn't run the appointment. So power of building a team too.
Gotcha. Man, that's inspiring for somebody, I think, who doesn't have a team to think about that could be their future. You did a deal without touching it.
Yeah. I mean, that's how I do all of them now. So I kind of like forget how cool it is. But, you know, one of the things I'm a firm believer of is you can build businesses that serve you or enslave you, and it's kind of up to you. You know, like there's folks who have established businesses now that have realized driving for dollars takes some time. So they've got Uber drivers using DealMachine, or they've hired people to do DealMachine. They're not the one out there physically doing it anymore, right? And if you always stay in that kind of like owner operator role,
Yep.
you just have a cool job, right? The goal of running a scorecard, the goal of getting into real estate investing is freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, you don't want to be at the point that you have to go drive for dollars because you need to get a deal.
Yeah. But great way to start out if you've only got time.
Yep.
Time's your asset.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And way less cash intensive than how I started.
Yeah. Would you be all right if we answered some questions? My screen says 51 here. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I've been kind of scrolling.
Want to get these people some answers. So the one that I asked was from Sean McLeod. That was at 7:17 p.m. I'm not sure where you're scrolling right now.
I'm in like I'm a little bit past you.
Okay.
Do I spend a lot of time / money on copy? I'm not sure what you mean by that, Rick. If you want to clarify. Do I think handwritten letters work best? Yes, in my experience. That's why we do them. Somebody lives in Phoenix, wants to know if they should put their brother under their account who lives in Memphis. So I would tell him, hey, you can use my account. I'll walk you through your first deal. You're going to give me 30% of profit. Right? Well, yeah. After marketing costs are reimbursed.
I think it depends on if his brother wants to learn how to do wholesaling or if his brother just wants to make a little extra money.
That's fair. Yeah. If your brother's wanting to like do this, yes. If it's just you paying him to go into a different market, dude, you're in Phoenix. Phoenix is an incredible market for wholesaling. Memphis is a whole different ballgame as far as price points and things go. So if he's wanting to do it himself, absolutely. David makes a great point. If you're just hungry to go into a different market, I'd work on mastering Phoenix.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
Somebody said, how did you land so many deals in your second and third year without a tool like DealMachine?
Just brute force. If anybody's seen the movie 300 where he kicks the guy into the well, that was pretty much my method.
But I mean, really practically though, you were sending massive amounts of mailers to the absentee owner high equity list.
Yeah, we did some other stuff as well. But we averaged 7,500 to 10,000 pieces of mail a month, plus call porter, taking all of our calls. Somebody asked me earlier, and I realized I missed it, how much I invested into call porter before I really started it. And it was a lot, like north of 6 figures before it was even publicly offered.
Okay.
But that was honestly just because I was doing 10,000 pieces of mail and didn't want to take all those calls.
It was really your internal answering team at first, right?
Yeah. I mean, it started out tail end of 16. And then a couple buddies were like, hey, can you take my calls? And it just, quite frankly, grew from there.
Somebody says, where's the best place to find deals? I think they mean driving for dollars, when you're driving for dollars.
So I would do like working class neighborhoods, like B-, C+. You don't have to be in like really rough parts of town, but you're not going to really find much in gated communities necessarily either. A lot of the nicer properties we buy would never end up on a driving for dollars list. They reach out to us for like divorce or that kind of stuff. So that's what I would recommend. Kind of like, your 70s, 80s built and older, probably.
Yeah. But I would say anywhere where you see a distressed house, definitely add that.
Yeah.
If you're looking for a place to go drive for dollars, I think Ryan's advice of go find a working class neighborhood. Like, for example, I feel like right by the airport in a lot of cities is like working class.
Yeah.
So that could be a good place for you guys to go looking for deals. And in your own market, I mean, you could just ask, you can go to a meetup and ask where other people like to buy.
Em asked if this is live. Yes. Yeah. Nope. All live. That's why you have things like me pausing to fix my Wi-Fi. We'd cut that out if this was recorded. Is the app good for apartment buildings? Great question, Mike. So this is actually something we've been toying with. I would say absolutely. One of the neat things with DealMachine is it lets you tweak your copy. So I would make sure you definitely tweak it to match the building. So we've done quite a bit of small multifamily. And a lot of these guys, so people don't know this, but when you buy lists from ListSource, what ListSource has is like a multifamily dwelling. Most people think is a duplex or something. It could be a 200 unit complex. So these guys are getting letters from all these people like, I want to buy your house at 123 Main Street. That's a $4 million building. And the guy's just like, oh, this person doesn't know what he's talking about. So if you DealMachine and put on there, hey, I want to buy your apartment complex, you're in like elite of the elite level of marketing to apartment owners. So absolutely. With apartments, you're going to more like build a list and then go drive to those. So it's a little bit more labor intensive. But yeah, I'd be all for it.
I wanted to answer a DealMachine question, if that's all right. There's
Yep, go for it.
A couple people asking about the mail piece in DealMachine that is 99 cents. They're saying, is the picture really important? She's saying, I think 99 cents is expensive postcard price. So adding a photo to the postcard will increase your response rate. And then also the ballpoint letters increase your response rate further. The reason is because it's becoming more personal. So the more personal you can make it, the better ROI you're going to get on your mail sent. You can also get the price down to 49 cents per postcard in DealMachine. We've got this add-on. It's called Mailer Pro. It's $50 a month. So if you're sending over 100 pieces of mail in a month, that will totally pay for itself. And anything in addition to 100 mail pieces will be the savings, because they'll all be at 49 cents each. Somebody also asked, can you integrate ballpoint marketing into DealMachine? Well, little do they know, it is. That's a recent thing that we just did. You can create a ballpoint template within your DealMachine account.
Yep. Still polishing some things, but they're looking really, really good. Somebody asked, when scaling, who's the first member of your team you get in order? So I would do acquisitions and acquisitions manager. That's like one of the biggest things you can get off your plate. Make sure you don't give it over too quickly. A lot of guys make the mistake of like hiring somebody like, okay, cool, this is your job. And then they don't really like manage that person. And then they wonder why they're not getting deals. But acquisitions. And then Rick asked ad copy, like wording of what you put on your outgoing marketing. So
we talk about what don't to put on there. We saw really
absolutely
the other day. He signed his postcard, the king of real estate. You remember that guy?
Yep. So, okay, couple things. And this is like real talk. This is the world I operate in, which is marketing. I'm honestly more of a marketer than a real estate investor. I just found a really good niche early on. Don't call yourself an investor in your mail pieces. It's a huge turnoff. It's kind of like meeting a girl and being like, yeah, I'm an alpha male. And she's like, okay, whatever. Like, get over yourself, right? I'm not a big fan of like misspelling words, like extreme, right? Like most people aren't like, oh wow, I bet that guy's just on it. Other than that, if you're going to link to a website, I recommend getting a G Suite account. Don't send somebody a letter and say, hey, hit me up at Gmail. Looks super sketchy. Trying to think any other from some of the pieces I've seen.
If you're not going to call yourself a real estate investor to the seller, what do you call yourself? How do you introduce yourself?
Local property owner, local home buyer. right? The problem with investor is it has a negative connotation to it.
Okay.
Most people think of like a Scrooge McDuck character, not somebody who's there to help them. What do investors do? They make a profit, right?
Mm-hmm.
People like, they don't really want to know.
Right. Yeah. So interesting, the nuance and the difference between using the word investor and the word home buyer.
Absolutely. Or a local property owner, right? Hey, I live near your house. I drive past it all the time. I just like to chat, right? Versus, oh, I'm a super investor, and like, come on.
It's way more approachable if you come across with that language. And I think that's your goal, is you want to just have a conversation with them.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, people are going to sell to who they like. And, it'd be a shame for you to strike out because you use a negative word.
Yeah.
I would also be careful in like branding, names, emails. You don't want to do things like legacy, wealth,
moneybags@gmail.com.
Yeah, exactly. Gosh, I forget who it was. It was one of the Facebook groups. And if I knew who it was, I wouldn't say. But their like real estate company was something like Secure the Bag LLC. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, that's not like, this is a professional industry. People are literally selling you the largest asset they own, and you're showing up like a clown. Like, come on.
That's really, really good tip. On the real estate investor, I wouldn't have initially thought of that, actually. So I like that a lot.
Yeah. I've also seen on some of the pieces, people removing the first name personalization and putting something instead like, is this your property? The problem with that is you're totally skipping over the person and you're going straight to what you want. What it really should be is, hey, I'm interested in getting to know you and I'd like to chat about your property, not just, hey, do you want to sell 123 Main Street? And by the way, I didn't even put your first name on this.
Mm-hmm.
So
I know our default DealMachine postcard says, is this your property?
As long as you still have the name on it, you're solid. But I would highly recommend personalizing in like address, all that stuff.
Interesting. Cool. That's a good tip.
Yeah.
I'm
just trying to scroll through and see if there's anything.
Yep. Somebody says they use a promo code, but they didn't receive the benefit. And if that's true, guys, please reach out to our support and just let them know, and they'll be able to make sure you guys get the promo code that you're trying to use if you're having trouble with that.
Al Patrick says, found a property, owner address matches the property address, but it's obviously empty. How do you find the owner? I'd skip trace them. Mm-hmm. David, you guys actually pull numbers through the app now, don't you?
Yeah, there's an enhanced search that's really great for just one-off skip traces.
There you go. Tim, I suck at tracking my KPIs and numbers. First off, I applaud you for your honesty. We all do. This is not the fun part of being a real estate investor. I got to the point that I couldn't afford not to, right? And that was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back. It's one of those things, you let it slide for a month or two and you may stop making money because you're not looking at it correctly. There's a lot of investors who aren't honest about this, but like my issue in 2016, I even had some really good checks, but I'd get a $15,000 check and I'd have $14,000 in expenses, right? Mm-hmm. I remember calling my dad and I was like, dude, this is awful. And he was like, what are you talking about? And I was like, my checks are awesome, but my bills are worse, right? Doing all this marketing, and I didn't have as cost-effective as a solution as DealMachine at the time. And that was really why I had to focus on driving up my profit, because I had expenses that would stack up, right? And typically on a real estate deal, you have a 30 to 60 day lag time from the time that lead comes in until you're at the closing table. Could be even more. I've had some that are 6 months, right? Mm-hmm. So my burn rate was pretty high at the time. So I had months that it was like, cool, American Express wants $25,000. I hope this deal closes on Friday. And then I got there because I wasn't tracking my numbers. Is the tenant-occupied property worth dealing with, and how does that work? Absolutely. Take a ton of pictures. Like you should leave an appointment with 50 to 100 pictures. Reason being, if you provide really good pictures, people will actually buy stuff from you sight unseen, like that deal I mentioned, because we had 100 plus pictures of the property. So yeah, absolutely. I would make sure that you are taking pictures of anything and everything you possibly can.
What else do you do on an appointment?
There's a lot. So show up, smile on your face. We have it built into our CRM to automatically remind them of the appointment an hour before. You can do that with just shooting them a quick text when you're starting out early on.
Yeah.
Shooting them a text when you get there, hey, I'm here. That way they're not like, oh, is this him? Peeking through the window. You're dressed like pretty clean cut. We typically do polos, nice jeans, loafers. You're smiling, shaking their hand, handing them a business card. When we leave, we send them a thank you card that day. We're trying to give them a really good customer experience because we know most of our competitors don't. So, it's pretty rare that I lose a deal to somebody. And it's even more rare that I lose a deal and they didn't pay significantly more than I did, because we kind of do all of these things to make sure that they have a good experience.
Mm-hmm. Really cool tip about the pictures, because that really just simplifies things if they feel comfortable buying it without even going in there, especially if there's a tenant in the place too.
Yep. Greg is call porter, a vehicle I can use in Philly. We take calls for people all over the country. So, yep. What is a good number to drive around in the app? 100 per week, 300 per week. Depends how fast you want to deal is my honest answer. David, what's your metric? How many people, many times? I think I know it, but
we always say add at least 200 distressed properties and mail them at least 3 times each. And that's at least, okay? So some people are going to get it before, but it may take a little bit more as well. That's just a really good benchmark from like getting all these testimonial calls about what it actually takes in order to get a deal. And so if you're mailing them 3 times each, that's over the course of like 2 or 3 months. So that's the metric I think that everyone should know.
Good thing for you guys to remember and think about is what you do today is going to determine what you're getting paid 30 to 45 days from now, which I know we've talked about on the time frame, but look at it more practically of did you do anything today to earn a paycheck a month from now?
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't go out and drive for dollars, if you didn't follow up with old leads, if you just kind of like went home, watched Netflix and chilled, like you didn't earn a paycheck 30, 45 days from now. And that was a big change for me. In 2016, I was extremely good at busy work. I could check email for 8 hours a day, right? But I wasn't doing the stuff that actually got me paid as often as I should have been. Let's see. Sean, great question. So he says it's not really just distressed properties, but pretty much any properties that have people motivated to sell. Yeah. So with DealMachine, you're particularly going after distressed properties. But David, I think it was you and I who talked about this. I don't really deal with distressed homeowners. I deal with reasonable people, right? So like I can literally count on one hand the number of people in a couple hundred deals I've done that have been like, please take this house from me. Most of them, it's pretty much just been like, yeah, if we can come to terms. And I've made a lot of money coming to terms. I know guys that are like, oh, I won't run the appointment if there's not a reason they have to sell. Great. Keep that up. I'll take all the stuff you miss. Right.
Gotcha. Interesting. So if you're getting a call coming in, is there ever a reason you wouldn't go on that appointment? Do you disqualify anyone on the phone before you go out and visit them?
Not necessarily. We will. So if they call in and they're asking like way over market value, like I'm talking way, like
Somebody's
it's a $200,000 house and they're at $1 million, right? They're at 500K. We'll be like, wow, how'd you get to that number? Right? Is there another home on the property that I don't know about? How did we get here? Right.
Yeah.
But for the most part, our rule of thumb is if they call in, they have equity and they want to sell, we'll go make them an offer. It's more of kind of like a coffees for closers, a little bit of like an older approach, but made a lot of money with it.
Okay. So do you ask them if they have equity on the phone, or how do you determine that?
No, I mean, most of the people we're mailing are lists that involve some sort of an equity filter. So we know it's pretty rare, even like driving for dollars, that I run into a situation where somebody can't afford to sell to me.
Okay.
So, I mean, it happens, but we have a lot of properties that we buy for like their mortgage balance, and we've got to we're pushing our numbers a little bit, but it's pretty rare that somebody's just totally upside down and I can't help them.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Travis followed up and he says his brother in Memphis just wants to make extra money.
Nah, tell him to go Uber. It would be a lot of work for you, man, to kind of infiltrate a new market and learn the ins and outs when you're trying to run your own business. David, I'm going to kind of scroll towards the bottom. That way people who are asking more recent questions don't get missed.
Okay.
Can we get a copy of this webinar for my employees to watch? David?
Yeah. Well, yeah, we're going to actually put this on our YouTube channel. So we'll definitely put that up there. We'll send out an email.
Nick says, how do you get pictures if the tenant or the owner is uncomfortable about even letting you in? So how we explain it to them is really straightforward. To tenants, we tell them, hey, we're whoever the owner told us to be. So I've been an insurance agent. I've been an inspector. I've been health code, whatever they tell me to be, right? That's the role I'll be. What we tell the owner is, look, here's why I need to take pictures. If I take pictures, I can share this with my contractors. They can give me things like rehab estimates, quotes, all that good stuff without me having to walk them through. You're not wanting to freak out the tenant. I totally get it. Let me come in 2 or 3 times instead of 8.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you can take pictures. I've never had anybody be like, nah, you can't take pictures. The only time we're pretty careful with pictures is if there's kids in rooms. We'll make sure we don't get them. And we really try not to get tenants or owners either, but it does happen, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. Juan, do you use any strategy to incentivize the seller to sign with a higher sense of urgency? No. I'm not a fan of dishonest marketing. So what I mean by that, I don't do the third notice expired postcards that other people preach. I'm just not a fan of I'm sure you guys, somebody asked, hey, is this live? If we weren't able to answer that question, you would have been like, what am I even here for? I'm just watching a recording these guys did, right? You would have felt cheated. I don't do the whole well, I can only buy one property this week and I've got other opportunities. That's not true. I can buy more than one this week. So we tend to use their motivation back and kind of reflect that to them of, well, you mentioned you would like to sell as fast as possible. What number gets this deal done, right? So we're not saying I can only buy one house or anything like that, but we're saying, hey, you mentioned you need to sell in 30 days. Title work, all that takes a bit of time. I need to get paperwork over now in order to meet your deadline. Yeah. So what I'm doing, I'm pushing them with their answer instead of my own.
Yeah. I feel like if people do business with people they trust, you don't want to get off on the wrong foot by lying. Yep. The first thing that you say.
Somebody said, will you answer questions on contracts? What questions do you have? Somebody else says, is this really live? Yes. I'm going to hold up 4 fingers. I feel like I need to show a watch with the time.
Somebody said, are Google Street Picks better than the actual pick? No. The actual pick is way, way better.
Yep. So this has been tested extensively. The Google Street View is close, and I'm not saying in effectiveness, but to the actual house. A lot of the times it's the wrong property. It's an old picture. It also dates it, right? So if somebody mailed me a letter of one of my properties, I've got one in particular that I actually had a DealMachine user send me a piece on, or it wasn't DealMachine, I'm sorry. It was one of the postcard pieces. and they had my house as yellow. My house has been blue for 2 years, but the Google Street View car hadn't been by for a bit. I knew exactly what they did, right? It wasn't special anymore. So I've actually heard from a lot of people that have tested this, the street views actually seem to upset people. I don't know why that is, whereas more of like the you taking the pictures better. I love some of the one I've seen David post of like selfies with the house, selfies on his motorcycle. I've seen like spouses take one, like husband and wife on a walk, hey, we want to buy your house. Like, get a little creative with this. Don't just like out your window and onto the next one. Like, doesn't hurt to put in a little extra love into it.
I want to answer a question about from Julian B. It says, when will team members be able to view if a property is absentee when submitting it to the app? So the deal finders add properties, but they don't see any of your data. The enterprise plan gives you some additional full access team members that actually allows them to see the data. You can give them access to actually send a mail. But for the deal finders, they're more restricted because a lot of times you just don't want that person to see your data or to spend your money. So that's the difference between those team members.
Jeff said, I was wondering if it was live, lots of questions to answer. None of the ones I'm seeing are getting answered. Thanks. I'll be patient. I'm at the bottom, man. So if you have one, feel free to throw it in. Nick, questions on contracts. Do you get a new contract reviewed by an attorney every time? Depends on your state. So in some states, they're attorney states. In mine, I have a template contract that I use over and over again. You guys are free to email me and I'll share that with you. I do recommend having an attorney review it and tweak it for your local state. I'm surprised you've had attorneys tell you they won't write you a contract. That's kind of what attorneys are there for. I would make sure you're talking to real estate attorneys. Somebody says the selfie trick is one that I closed, made 10 grand.
Nice.
I mean, that's 10,000 reasons to take a selfie, and I'm not somebody who takes selfies. Jeff, I asked above if you could re-ask, that'd be great. There's been a couple hundred questions and I don't want to have to scroll through all of them. Let's see here.
Greg says, can we personalize postcards in DealMachine? Yes. Yes, you can under templates.
Jeff says, what if you can't afford to use mailers? Do you have any benchmarks for that? I mean, you could door knock. I'm not that brave. You can cold call. I mean, there's definitely lower cost options. I mean, I would look at it. David's typical metric is you're going to spend like $600 to $1,200 to get a deal. So if you have a running car, go drive for Uber. Do some stuff for TaskRabbit, sell some stuff. I mean, if you really want to get up a marketing budget of a couple grand, you do it in a month or two, even driving for Uber or working odd jobs or something. But yeah, I mean, you could also door knock. You could look into cold calling. Door knocking is probably the cheapest option that exists, driving for dollars, getting out and going up and knocking on the door of ugly houses. But again, I'm not that brave. Let's see. Email for contract, Ryan at call Porter porter.com. Do you tell sellers you're wholesaling? So that's really confusing to try to explain in my book. Now I don't really pull out of deals. In fact, I couldn't tell you the last time we pulled out of a contract. I make offers that are so good that if I have to buy the house and keep it, I will. My recommendation to anybody that's having this dilemma of like, well, I don't want to lie and say I'm buying it when I'm not, find a guy like me in your market who's a cash buyer that'll buy anything that makes sense. Somebody comes to me in Indianapolis and says, hey, I've got this deal. And I tell them, cool, I'll take it for 45. They go and try and get it for less. If they sell it to somebody else, hey, that's cool, right? But they know this is a done deal if they can get it for less than that. That way you don't even have to get into this whole like, oh, I'm wholesaling and I'm like a grocery store and how that it starts to get messy if you try to get it, because then they're like, well, why wouldn't I just talk to the guy who's actually going to buy it? David, you may want to answer Travis's question about DealMachine. Been using it for 2 months. Get alerts saying I don't have points. It adds points for a fee without me confirming anything. Why does this happen? What are the points for? And if I pay a monthly fee, why do I need points?
Yep. So I'm guessing by points, you mean deal credits, and those are used to send mail. So it sounds like you have some mailers set to repeat. And if you want to reach out to our support staff because you're not sure which mailers are on repeat, they'll be able to check that out for you and walk you through that. So the best way to contact them is in the app, hitting the chat button, or support@dealmachine.com.
Brian asks, that's a good question actually. When a home shows as absentee, where does the postcard go? So it's going to go to the tax billing address. That's the owner's house. So it's not going to show up at like the tenant's front door of that absentee property. It's going to go to the owner that's responsible for the tax bills. So that's where you want it to go. Somebody else asked, how do I close deals without meeting the sellers? I have staff who do it for me. So people are meeting with the sellers. It's just, I live in San Diego. Indianapolis is a bit of a drive from there.
Yeah. So Ryan just has a team, right?
Yep.
Can't drive.
You can get the tax billing address from the courthouse or online. So the assessor is what you're looking for. So just Google your county plus assessor, but the DealMachine app pulls that for you, which is way easier than you going and looking up addresses. Do you own the code or is this white labeled? No, David, this is David's baby.
I wrote the app. Yeah, I wrote the app.
Way smarter than me. If you want to buy it, let him know. No, I don't even think he'd sell it to you if you asked.
It's too close to my heart.
Yeah. Any tips for getting phone numbers when the skip trace comes back empty? David, hope you're cool with me answering this.
Yeah.
Skip Genie is a solid company owned by a guy named Larry White. They're about 25 cents a search, I believe, but it's the best data you can buy right now. Curtis. All right, David, let's do one more because I think this is a good one and then we'll wrap. Good.
Okay.
All right. I don't mind going, but I'm sure you have stuff to do. Okay. Curtis says, I have 11 properties for sale. I need to find some buyers. All right, cool. So I'm going to give you
good job.
Yeah. I mean,
that's awesome.
That is awesome. A lot of work, but that is awesome. Skip Trace company, Skip Genie, Tracy. Okay. So first thing I would do is any local Facebook investor groups that are the local ones. I don't recommend posting your deals in the large ones. That's a good way to have people go around you. But local Facebook groups, hey, I've got this deal. Here's the address, some info. Let me know if you're interested, right? So I'd start there. In the big ones, like the wholesaling houses full-time, these other larger ones, just search the market you're in. So like Indianapolis for me, and you'll find dozens of posts where somebody says, I have a deal in Indianapolis, post your email, and all of these people will throw out their emails. Go through and just start snagging those emails. My email's in there, right? So if you're in Indianapolis, that's something even I have done. After that, there is, in some markets, you can get email addresses of real estate brokers that have sold deals in the zip code. Even if you can't get email addresses, going through and cold calling them, hey, I noticed you sold the property at 123 Main Street. Do you still have buyers? Perfect. I've got a deal. That's how I've sold a lot of my deals, is actually through agents to owner occupants even. Other than that, you could offer to pay a flat fee to other investors to have them blast out your deals. There's some really large groups who do this. Hey, I'll shoot out your deal at X price. If you sell it to one of my buyers, you're going to pay me $2 or $3 grand. Some people will try to go for 50-50. I'd try to get a better deal than that if I were you. Other than that, more of a guerrilla option. Find Cash Buyers Now by Kent Clothier. go on, buy a list, export it, pull out all the individuals, run it through something like Skip Genie, start cold calling. Hey, I noticed you bought properties in town. I'm not going to waste your time and try to add you to a list. I've got 11 deals I want to send you. What's your email? Right? You give me a phone call like that, you have my attention. What I normally get are like, oh, what's your buying criteria? And they have this 50-page script that some guru told them to put people through. And I'm just like, no, I don't have time for this. Other than that, I would network with the other wholesalers in your market. I know we touched on trying to use their lists, but like, hey, do you have like any of your top guys you can shoot these out to if they don't want to do that? If you have a decent buyers list, offer to trade with other wholesalers that you trust in your market. Hey, I've got 1,000. How many do you have? 1,000. Okay, I'll swap. Hey, I've got 1,000. You've got 2,000. Swap 1,000 for 1,000, right? So you can also just attempt to kind of swap a little bit. But that should kind of get you there.
Yeah.
I would also Craigslist them. Doesn't hurt. Other than that,
if you can't find a deal, I mean, how do you feel about just having him bring it to whatever the biggest wholesaler is in his town and just seeing if they can?
Yeah, absolutely. I sell deals to other wholesalers all the time.
Yeah. I think what you don't want is a daisy chain situation.
Correct.
You want to find
this is not
like 100 deals a year that
correct.
Has solid buyers.
We buy houses in your market, and whoever's first is who you should talk to.
Yeah.
Whoever's like top 3, 4, it's who you should talk to.
Daisy chaining is actually illegal, if you guys didn't know that.
If it's like Joe Schmo, who you've never heard of, who has a Gmail address and calls himself an investor, you should probably pass. So.
Well, cool.
Yeah.
I think that was the last question.
Yeah.
Were there any other good ones that came in? You got quiet when you said we're only doing one more. Awesome. Well, so we're going to post a replay of this. If you have questions about DealMachine, please reach out to our support. It's a chat feature in the app or the support@dealmachine.com. And what else you got, Ryan? Any takeaways from like what you told us tonight? I know a lot of people were asking for your website. Some people were asking for that scorecard as well.
Yeah, so I'll post my website again and my email again.
Okay.
So like if you guys heard anything I said on this call, sorry, my keyboard's super loud. 2 things. Run a scorecard. What you do today is going to determine what you get paid in 30 to 45 days. Do you want to get paid or not? Right? There's a lot of people that like are hustling and on their grind that aren't doing anything. Right? So, get out there and like, this isn't going to turn into anything for you if you don't actually try it. Right? So that's what I've got.
Cool. All right. Thanks, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. We'll talk to you.
Happy to.
Yeah.
All right. Talk to you guys soon.
Bye, guys.